Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, welcome into the program. How you doing? Today on the show, we have computer and technology news for the whole hour. And yeah, we have a lot of different stories, everything from the good old-fashioned copyright notices and how that's taken a lot of people from the Warhammer community actually, by surprise. And the new convention coming up, there's a bit of a kerfluffle there. There's also, of course, the Pentagon with their new AI. For those who don't know, AI isn't just for businesses, security, and that kind of thing. No, actually everyone, including even the military, is definitely getting into artificial intelligence, and they say they can predict events days in advance. What that means? Well, hey, we'll find out. All that and more. Even some Texas Instruments, the maker of the TI calculators, they keep getting better and better, and good, because they're almost required for any higher math classes. So there you go. Everyone, welcome into the program, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything as soon as I get around to updating it all. Computeramerica.com for show notes, reviews, past shows, future shows, the podcast. If you can't catch us live on IRN, then that is the next best place to go, is going to be our website. While you're there, check out the social media links, give us a like, give us a follow. You get to stay up to date with what it is that we're doing, including contests, giveaways, and more. And everyone, I would say that computeramerica.com is just, the best place to find out more about the show here. So for everyone tuning into the video portion, for everyone tuning into the radio program, welcome into the show. Why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news? Here we go. I think that for our first story, we're going to do something fun. And Amazon, if you didn't know, they have their own streaming service. Not always the best selection and, not always the best options there, but they have it. And, well, here we go. They have a very notable upcoming preview coming up. And if you're watching the video portion, you can see it right here on the screen. If that looks familiar, what's that? Minas Tirith or Minas Tirith? I'll be honest, never really read it, just watched the movies. I'm a fan. I wouldn't say I'm a super fan or a hyper fan or, anything like that. But clearly, Lord of the Rings. That is what's up on the screen. And for those who didn't know, for the past couple of years, Amazon got the rights to produce a television series, or television as much as streaming series, based on Lord of the Rings. And as I recall, from what I recall, the events in the series are supposed to happen like 600 years before, the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. So it's, I would say it's more Middle Earth setting than it is any of your old favorite characters. Although I will say that undoubtedly you're going to have your probably Gandalf and probably a couple of your other namesakes, but you're not going to have, your Aragorn and stuff like that. Now, whole new setting, and they finally have a release date, and that's going to be September 2nd, and to break your dreams, 2022. Yep, sometime next year. Amazon's long-awaited The Lord of the Rings series has a release date, but don't go rushing to stake out your best spot. They are saying that the show will premiere on September 2nd, 2022, with new episodes dropping each week. So much like other main shows, they are going to have a weekly release date. Filming on the as-yet untitled series wrapped up today. Production began in February 2020, but it was disrupted by COVID-19. You can imagine what happened in February 2020. That was right at the beginning. And the series takes place... so as it's 600 years, turns out it takes place thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. A cast of old new characters will have to resist a newly resurgent evil during the Second Age of Middle Earth. Along with the release date, Amazon revealed the first proper image from the show, which you can see here. It depicts a figure looking at a vista and a white city, and much further away, the outline of two curious trees. Looking at that again, and the outline of two curious trees. Yep. There's definitely a dark and a light tree there in the background. Very cool. With no sign of a trailer, expect the internet to analyze every pixel of the image for hints, because that's one thing that the internet does very well, and that is pick apart every little detail, for better or for worse, for right or for wrong. They will do that. Even before the filming started, Amazon renewed the series for a second season, so whatever happens in the first batch of episodes, you can be rest assured that there will be more of the story to come. And, Lord of the Rings is one of those franchises that the movies were made like in the early 2000s, mid-early 2000s, something like that, and they hold up so incredibly well. The book series has been around for 100 years. I mean, it was the original to all of the kind of high fantasy that we all know and love today, and it's just one of those franchises that you have to give it its due respect. You can't just go into it with a low budget and hope that, everyone's just going to see it because it has the name attached to it. But at the same time, if you give it any notable budget, you get a good script for it, you run it through all the nerds to, make sure you don't have any of the inconsistencies in the story, because if Lord of the Rings fans are one thing, it's that they're neurotic about their story in their history, but still, you make sure everything lines up with the history, and you present a new setting, a new scene with, again, a decent budget. They're going to love it. I mean, it's been so long since there's been well-received Lord of the Rings, like even The Hobbit, which a lot of people didn't seem to like. I'm sure that there are people that did like it. There are people that did hate it, but at the same time, it was very successful, even for a mixed review Lord of the Rings setting. So I expect the same, and even better, hey, if you already have Prime, it's going to be free. Not a bad deal. September 2nd, 2022. Definitely give that a look. Okay, so that was story number one. Very light, very fluffy. I don't think we could offend anyone with that story. So let's see if we can do better with our second one. And you know what? Let's get into this Warhammer one. And if Vice does anything, Vice and Motherboard, which is their tech publication, if they do one thing well, it's long-form journalism. They're very good at it, and we're going to try to, get through this as fast as we can. This one's actually one of the smaller stories that they've had, but it's still very cool that they're able to put all this together, because Warhammer, for those who don't know, like, if you want peak nerd. Like Call of Duty is like, they're the frat guys. They're just, they're the Monster Energy drinking guys. They're whatever. There's there's nerds like myself that are just like into video games, and we play video games and whatever. I would say the hardcore fandom of really nerdy stuff starts at like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer 40k. It is just like, that is peak nerd dominion. Like that is where they just reign supreme. And well, with that being said, these peak nerds are in for a rude awakening because they're being kind of pushed around, and we're going to talk about both sides of this, but yeah, they're being pushed around by copyright lawsuit. And this is actually the company behind 40k has a new policy regarding fan animations that has creators worried and angry. And before we even get started, I will say that and I want to say it's not Wizards of the Coast because that's Magic the Gathering. Games Workshop. There we go. Games Workshop is the one who actually makes the the franchise and all the tabletop and all the has all the creative decisions over it. They are protecting their IP. So go into the story remembering that it's not that the company behind the game hates their fans and hates everything that they do, and they just don't want anyone parodying or doing anything with their IP. No, that's what copyright law is. If you don't protect your copyright law, if you get to kind of cherry pick who gets to play with it, who gets to use it, if you decide that, I'm going to claim copyright over that TV show, but I'm not going to claim copyright over that comic book, well, if you don't defend it everywhere, then it's not your copyright. You can't selectively enforce it, so they must carte blanche enforce it. They must enforce it everywhere that they can, and that includes fan creations, even those who are doing it out of passion, no direct money, even though in some cases they do get money for it. Think about subscriptions and ad revenue and things like that, but still they have to defend it. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and read about this from Matthew Gault from Vice. And yeah, they're saying that in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war between fan communities and the corporation that owns the intellectual property. Warhammer 40k community is furious at Games Workshop, the tabletop game's creator, because of a new zero-tolerance policy about fan-made animation videos. Yes, this is the lawyers definitely taking the reins. Warhammer's 40k Space Marines are a ubiquitous character in hundreds of animated videos, and they mentioned that creator Bruva Alphabusa, hopefully I said that right, has been running the parody show If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device on YouTube for 8 years. That's quite a while. The human world of Warhammer 40k is run by an all-powerful god emperor who might be dead. He sits on a huge throne and is attended to by servants. In TTS, or text-to-speech, the tech priest set up the emperor's corpsean eminence with a simple device that allows him to communicate with those around him after a millennia of silence. It's a comedy. So essentially a fan-made episode that, clearly that can draw a big audience, and that gets a lot of people kind of invested. And you wonder, if this was a problem, why wasn't it a problem 8 years ago before someone invests, thousands of hours of their time, gets, millions of followers in a community? Like, why is it a problem now? And that's where, again, that same community is going to come up and say, well, we like this and we don't want you to take this away. But yeah, still intellectual property. Now, on July 29th, so just a couple of days ago, Alphabusa announced he's putting TTS on hiatus and looking for a part-time job, saying a future under this GW, or at least these policies, is untenable. He said in a video about the decision, the indefinite hiatus of TTS will have to serve as our statement. So there you go. Had to stop doing what, kind of was paying the bills, and had to go off and do something else. At issue is an update to Games Workshop's intellectual property guidelines. The new policy explicitly laid out the do's and don'ts of how the company wants fans to handle the Warhammer 40k and other universes. At the bottom, it detailed a list of infringements it has a zero tolerance policy towards. It includes pirating books, because they do sell kind of the guides and the and the maps, and of course the books set in the Warhammer 40k series. I'm sorry, universe. So the books, no pirating of books. They said that using a 3D printer to make copies of their models, which is very popular because you can make high resolution scans, and those models are very expensive. Even before you paint them and you do all the miniatures. Why get a 3D printer if you can't make what you want on the 3D printer, you may ask, but hey, it's their IP. And, I'm sure that there are lots of people who are, in fact, creating their own 3D models on a 3D printer. But still, using a 3D printer to make copies of their models, and a ban on fan animation. So, of course, the big question there is, why now? Why all of a sudden? But you can also see from a business standpoint, they make a lot of their money on miniatures. So they're going to want to protect that. They make a lot of money on their books set in the Warhammer 40k universe. So they're going to want to protect that. And then the animation, I can only assume that there's going to be, not just video games and stuff like that, because there definitely are, but maybe something like a TV show that is potentially in the works, or might be in the works, or could be in the works. But if whoever's going to produce it looks out at the landscape and says, there's already a bunch of decent animation, and, we have to compete with that, well, that's going to be really hard to do, and, we don't want to do that. Maybe it's a competitive thing. I'm not sure. But still, the new zero tolerance policy is, pretty restrictive. They're saying that the guidelines say individuals must not create fan films or animations based on our settings and characters. These are only to be created under the license from Games Workshop. So, on the subreddit dedicated to all this, Warhammer 40k, which is they mentioned that the subreddit has for days been taken over with people furious about Games Workshop's new policy. Since Friday, the subreddit has been locked down in protest. Animators like TTS have introduced hundreds of thousands of people to Warhammer. Content makers are the pillars of the community and a constant source of free community engagement that they have received for years. To stab these people in the back after years of profiting from their work is unforgivable. So what they're saying there, and this is again what the simply the subreddit for Warhammer 40k, or at least the meme subreddit for Warhammer 40k, they're saying that people who create in this universe are essentially advertising for Games Workshop for free, by using their characters, using their settings. They are they're introducing people to characters in a fun way, in a different way, and of course creating content that they themselves don't have to pay to do. Now clearly they're saying that they are profiting off of them. How many people are actually going out and purchasing because they saw an animation of something? You might be able to work up a number, but I doubt it's a 1 penny to 1 penny kind of ratio. Who's to say? But clearly Games Workshop ran the numbers in their head and said, this new policy is going to be worth it. Now, the animator of the TTS Warhammer animation, he mentioned that he would need an affirmative consent from GW about fan animations before he's willing to start up again. He has about 386,000 subscribers, 136 million views, and racks up about 1 million views per each video. And as a parody, it's possible that he could get he could still create his animations, which is what they were talking about, because fair use and parody is protected under the current law. But to actually have to go into court and argue that, this is fair use, this is parody, this is not a direct ripoff or anything like that, that takes a lot of time, energy, effort, money, lawyers, that someone who clearly has to stop this and go off and, find other work immediately to keep the lights on, that's not something an individual can do against something, really against an entity like Games Workshop. Now, all that time, he'd likely be facing problems with his YouTube and Patreon accounts, saying, our hope is that should GW at some point in the far future change their policies and become explicitly more amenable to fans, then we will return work at TTS. So, Games Workshop is a notoriously litigious company, so it's not shocking that they'll be packing it in ahead of possible litigations. It has repeatedly attempted to enforce a trademark on the word Space Marines, even though Space Marines has been in a lot of different franchises up until this point, including, one of my favorites, StarCraft, which uses, Space Marines, but actually they don't use the word Space Marines, but they are Marines. But still, they mentioned that with mixed results and gone to legal war with the company that was manufacturing miniatures of characters it had never made. So clearly, Games Workshop, like a couple of other, they're almost like a patent troll, except they actually use some of their patents, but they will really jump in and try to protect their IP at all costs. Like, even if fans think that, this is a bad idea, or, it's almost like there's very little, not introspection, but, there's very little consideration given to what they copyright strike. It's just, if it's at all possibly related to Warhammer 40k, then they are going to, take control of it as best they can. On August 25th, GW will launch Warhammer Plus, a subscription service for Warhammer fans that includes access to several planned animated series. There we go. Which may in the community say must be the impetus for the new policy. One of those series is Astartes, which began life as an unlicensed fan-made YouTube show. It caught GW's attention, and it offered Peterson a job. This is the exact kind of thing that GW's new policy seeks to eliminate. So essentially, they have done this before, where they've picked up animators from the community and actually hired them, but now under their new policy, that opportunity may never happen again because they're going to stomp it out completely. Like I said, they probably don't want other animation to confuse people, to compete with their own animation. They're going to try to lock this down, as they are historically known to do. They're going to lock it down as best they can. Now, the fan reaction has shocked the creator of the TTS, saying that the support has been so immense, and my meager primate brain has a hard time internalizing it. Like, imagine how a crowded theater with an ape sitting on stage making funny paintings or whatever, the whole crowd starts clapping and hollering and cheering super loudly, and they mentioned that the ape is absolutely startled and overwhelmed, saying, I am this ape. Very well said. Very good visual. Now, saying that, he hasn't heard from GW and doesn't expect to. Neither do I see the need for any response past an eventual change to their policies. That is all I really want. I don't want or need any recognition, just the policy change. Which is essentially to say he wants to continue his YouTube channel, but not so much. This always happens because clearly people fall in love with different series. It doesn't matter if it's Warhammer, if it's if it's Warcraft, if it's Riot, if it's whatever. Fan anime, people get sucked into a universe. They relate to characters and they want to kind of express that. Whether they make music, art, animation, whatever they're going to do, they're going to use their creative outlets to kind of explore those characters and have fun with them. When you start making money off of it, that's when it gets really hard, because this guy's job was to run this YouTube channel with, millions of views, thousands of subscribers. But then when, the company has every right, because it's their IP, when they have every right to come in and say, stop doing that, that's when it gets really uncomfortable, because that's essentially saying, no more earning money for yourself because we say so. And that puts both companies both parties in a really awkward situation. So, but it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. There will always be people who will use their creative outlets on their favorite series, characters, video games, whatever it may be. And it's always going to be the struggle. That's kind of the whole point with parity and fair use. And I would even say that, like this gentleman was saying, it may fall under parity, and it probably does. But to take it to court and argue that, that's just not the resources he has. So a more clearly defined fair use, maybe a revamp to the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, DMCA, maybe a better, more refined use of DMCA would be helpful here. And hopefully that's something that, honestly, I truly believe should go up to the Supreme Court. Because up until this point, much larger companies, entities, music labels, just the, Disney in particular, like they'll use DMCA as just this giant cudgel and just bash smaller, fans over the head with it, even though it is fair use, even though it is parody. So it's something that definitely needs work on, and we hope that that gentleman can get back to doing what he loves, which is making that YouTube channel and those animations. Speaking of things that people don't love, BBC News. In fact, Elon Musk. Wouldn't be a good show without Elon Musk, saying that I don't want to be CEO of anything, which is surprising, and honestly kind of fits what I've read about Elon Musk. He's for all the hate that he gets and for all the love that he gets, which a lot of people have kind of polar opposite views of him, Elon Musk is a very intelligent person, and he knows how to hire and surround himself with very intelligent people, but he himself is, kind of head in the sky, very introspective, very, very technically detailed. But, we kind of saw what happened with, let's take Apple, for instance. Steve Jobs was great at marketing. He was great at presenting. He was great at, kind of selling this image. And then, of course, he was, kind of obviously replaced with Tim Cook. And Tim Cook was very much a supply line kind of guy. He was the guy that turned Apple from this, this sleek company into something that actually operated very, very efficiently. Some people have a mind and have an acumen for being a CEO. And Elon Musk, no one can argue with his success. Billions of dollars later, multiple billion-dollar companies, creating, some of the most coveted cars out there on the market. Well, yeah, he says he doesn't want to be the CEO of anything. And I truly believe that. I truly believe that he is highly intelligent. He can get the job done, but that doesn't mean that's what he wants to do. So let's talk about this. Saying that Elon Musk says that the company doesn't need a press office. Instead, in a similar way to Donald Trump, he uses Twitter rather than press releases to communicate. And on Friday, he was in full Elon Musk tweet mode. Because, hey, there's no one really censoring him between his tweets and himself, which has gotten him into trouble. You can imagine that, when he tweets out stuff like, the share price of Tesla is going to be 420.69. Like, oh, well, clearly, that's a meme, a joke. But then the Securities and Exchange Commission has to come in and be like, hey, that's market manipulation. You are tampering with your share price, Mr. CEO. And clearly you can see it that it did have an effect. And there was also the effect of when Elon Musk tweeted out that, I think that Tesla is overvalued. That also has an effect on the share price. Stuff like that definitely would not have happened under a more, kind of someone who's more invested in being a CEO. Well, a new book is coming out about the Tesla CEO. One story is that in 2016, when Tesla was in trouble, Musk reached out to Apple's Tim Cook, who he thought might want to buy the company. The story goes that Elon Musk insisted that as part of the deal, he be made CEO of Apple, and Tim Cook told him where to go. And although that, I think that was, eventually said not true. Supposedly, Tim Cook received a call from Elon Musk, and Elon Musk was like, if you buy Tesla, I want to be CEO. And Tim Cook said, of Tesla? And Elon Musk said, no, of Apple. And then supposedly Tim Cook of Apple said, go bleep yourself. But that I don't believe that's how it really happened, and I don't think that was uncorroborated with anyone, like other than like the New York Times reporter that wrote the book. But still, stuff like that has been kind of hitting stands. Now, without a press office to comment on the story, the author of the story asked Musk on Twitter whether this was true. His response saying, "Cook and I never spoke or written to each other ever. There was a point where I requested to meet with Cook to talk about Apple buying Tesla. There was no conditions of acquisition proposed whatsoever. He refused to meet. Tesla was worth about 6% of today's value," which, I would even argue that I think that Apple would not have been able to grow Tesla the way that Elon Musk has been able to grow Tesla. So for Elon Musk to kind of point out that, Apple missed out on this great deal by not acquiring Tesla early, Tesla's rise is so astronomical and so unlikely that can you really blame Tim Cook for not buying Tesla? Very, very, very curious. Now, they're saying that, but it was followed up tweet that was particularly revealing, saying that Elon could be a much better CEO for Apple, saying, "I don't want to be CEO of anything." There you go. Now, Elon Musk said something similar last month whilst giving evidence in court, talking about being CEO of Tesla. He said, "I rather hate it, and I would much prefer to spend my time on design and engineering," which is always what I've heard about the guy. Whereas other people may hire, kind of the literal rocket scientists to create the rockets for his SpaceX company, he's actually in there and he'll actually pick up books and, he hires people and he doesn't just, kind of use their expertise on his projects. He actually uses the people in the fact that he'll go and talk with them and ask them questions and truly understand all the different parts of the company. He's not just like, "Oh, I got a battery guy for my batteries." No, he truly understands what it means to mass produce batteries on an epic scale. And of course, solar energy, so on and so forth. That is something no one will ever argue away, from my perception of Elon Musk. He may be narcissistic, self-centered, he may be, a little bit too much of an edgelord, whatever you may call it. He is very intelligent. That there is no doubt about that. Now, he also mentioned that he also gave a reason for why he continues to be Tesla's boss, saying, "I have to, or frankly, Tesla is going to die." And I also truly believe that. A lot of Tesla's value comes with Elon Musk. That's almost like trying to separate Robert Downey Jr. from Iron Man. The two are one and the same. And Elon Musk can do... I can't say he can do no wrong, but he gets so much free publicity for his companies by being himself that it's instead of having an advertising budget, hey, Elon Musk just exists and people start talking about him. Now, that he is repeatedly saying he doesn't want to be CEO will worry some investors, love him or loathe him. Musk's vision and force of personality has driven Tesla's incredible success. Tesla is by far the most valuable car company in the world. Definitely. He's the boss of SpaceX, which in April was awarded a contract by NASA to put people onto the moon. He also founded the Boring Company in 2016, which aims to revolutionize travel through advances in tunneling technology. Yeah, there you go. So, and I believe he even got a contract in what is it? San Francisco? No. Los Angeles. Yeah, he got a test case in Los Angeles to dig a hole from downtown to the airport. So yeah, clearly he is a visionary and he is doing very impressive things. Now, but the transition from startup to large company turns the CEO position into a very different beast. And the author goes into different examples of people who were visionaries and then had to become CEOs, and it's not always the most seamless transition. Sometimes people who like to design, who like to be, kind of on the engineering side of it, they don't make the best executives. And again, I would point to my previous one that Steve Jobs took Apple a really long distance, really made the company what it was. And then Tim Cook came in and he really took it to the next level. I mean, Apple, was like the first company to become a $2 trillion company under Tim Cook. So, Elon Musk, on the other hand, projects the image of a swashbuckling entrepreneur. You get the feeling that the often administrative process of running a company does not excite him. Along with tremendous growth, the Tesla boss has caused all sorts of headaches for Tesla shareholders. He is currently being sued by shareholders who claim the carmaker's money was wasted on buying SolarCity, which they say was running out of money. And at the time, Musk owned 22% stake in both Tesla and SolarCity. I gotta say, SolarCity was very clearly struggling for money, and it was going to go under. Elon Musk took it into Tesla so that they could better incorporate the two companies. Was it a waste of money? I wouldn't really think so. It was more vertical integration, and you can sue for anything. These people can sue saying that it was a really bad decision, so on and so forth. But still, it does integrate very well with an electric vehicle with power walls and solar cells to charge those power walls. It integrates so nicely and makes this nice little package that people can, really buy into, where their car is powered by the sun, which is powered by battery banks in their home, all of it self-sustaining. It's hard to argue that, there was no reason. It's not like Elon Musk took Tesla and said, Tesla needs to buy this hot dog company. There was a very compelling reason to integrate these. Now, Elon Musk may be the second richest person on the planet, but strangely, he doesn't feel he has the freedom to do what he wants. He's living proof that you are never too wealthy to be stuck in a job you don't like. And I definitely agree with the author on this one. He loves designing. He loves, the whole process of starting a company from scratch, seeing a problem, saying, why can't we fix this? I mean, hey, that's the whole reason with SpaceX. It wasn't that he wanted to, play with rockets. No, it was that he thought that reusing rockets is something that is possible, and he wanted to be the one to do it. Up until this point, you saw these rocket launches and they just disposed of 90% of it was just wasted in the ocean. And he came in and said, no, we can do this better. He saw the same thing with electric car companies. He saw the same thing with battery companies. He saw the same thing with solar companies. Solar panels that just looked so industrial and ugly and no one would ever put them on their homes. Well, he made solar panels that people would want to put on their homes. Same thing with electric cars. Before Tesla, you had the Chevy Volt, I want to say, and the Toyota Prius. And yeah, Tesla made electric vehicles attractive. So clearly, Elon Musk likes to innovate, likes to really disrupt marketplaces, but it's really hard to do that when your hands are tied being a CEO of a company, because you can't be off the cuff. You can't go off and do something else. No, you have to really foster and nurture these companies along. So there you go. Elon Musk trapped. Hey, who knew? Although I will say, for everyone who's saying, sitting there thinking, man, I wish I had his problems, at least CEO of Tesla is not a dead-end job, because, hey, billions and billions of dollars can definitely buy you a lot of distraction. I have no doubt about that. Now, let's talk about this one. So this is actually electric car adjacent, and this one talks about Toyota and the fact that they supposedly are using lobbyists to actually slow the adoption of electric vehicles. Well, that's not a headline you really like to see, and this is from Wired again, and saying that Toyota whiffed on EVs now is trying to slow their rise in a bid to protect its investment in hybrids and hydrogen fuel cells. The carmaker is lobbying against the transition to electric vehicles. Now, they're saying that the Prius was the world's first mass-produced hybrid car and years ahead of any of its competitors. They're saying that after a major redesign in 2004, sales took off. The Prius came back profile was instantly recognizable, and the car's combination of fuel economy and practicality was unparalleled. I still see Priuses, still running around, 20 years later with hundreds of thousands of miles on them. People love them. Now, as obviously the Prius hybrid technology was refined over the years, it started appearing in other models, from the small Prius C to the three-row Highlander. Even the company's luxury brand Lexus hybridized several of its cars and SUVs. So clearly, they were, into the battery, into the hybrid. Yeah, that's all well and good. Well, clearly, Toyota bet bigger on hybrid, and then, of course, batteries came into play. Full-on electric vehicles started to rule. And I was just talking about this, how Tesla made this, kind of attractive to make a fully electric car. Well, they're saying that Toyota had sold 4 million vehicles in the Prius family worldwide, and that was in May 2012. The next month, Tesla introduced the Model S, which dethroned Toyota's hybrid as the leader in green transportation. The new car proved that long-range electric vehicles, while expensive, could be practical and desirable. But Toyota misunderstood what Tesla represented, and while Toyota invested in Tesla, it saw the startup not as a threat, but rather a bit player that could help Toyota meet its EV mandates. Essentially, if they invested enough into Tesla, then hey, they could get electric car adoption where they needed it to be. And, well, I guess they did in some ways. So in a bid to protect its investments, Toyota has been strenuously lobbying against battery-powered electric vehicles, and, well, it's not really working too well. So the article continues here. They mention hydrogen because Toyota has been investing heavily in hydrogen, and they mentioned that, so they said that To protect their investment in hydrogen fuel cells, they've been waging a campaign of fear, uncertainty, and doubt to cast EVs as unreliable and undesirable, saying, quote, "If we are to make dramatic progress in electrification, it will require overcoming tremendous challenges, including refueling infrastructure, battery availability, consumer acceptance, and affordability." And that's what the Director of Energy and Environmental Research for Toyota Motor North America said. Essentially saying that electric vehicles don't meet any of those problems, which they clearly do. Toyota has been lobbying governments to water down emission standards or oppose fossil fuel vehicle phase-outs, which means that, California said that they were going to stop selling gas-powered cars in 2035, Europe in 2030. Some places in Europe as soon as 2028, I believe, are starting to phase those out, including France. A lot of places are not even going to sell hybrids, and that's where Toyota still has a lot of their investment and a lot of vehicles that they were predicting to sell for a long time to come, and they're looking to push back against that. So they said that while such fear, uncertainty, and doubt may have worked in the past when they were expensive and charging networks were sparse, it's less effective today. According to reports, somewhere between 30 and 40% of consumers say their next purchase will be an EV. I have no doubt that new cars coming onto the road, EVs are very, very attractive. And honestly, all these heat waves and fires and just climate change in general, I'm sure, is not helping even hybrid at this point. It almost has to be an electric vehicle if you care at all about the environment, or just kind of future-proofing your car. Now, they mentioned that some are following through with their decisions sooner than later. Plug-in vehicle sales in the U.S. have more than doubled over the past year, compared to just 29% of growth for the rest of the market. I will say, though, that over the past year, and I hate any economic news that say over the last year, because there was a rather cataclysmic financial event called COVID that happened. And a lot of statistics were thrown off their axis by COVID. So when they say that, plug-in vehicle sales more than doubled while only 29% more people bought a traditional car, those are COVID numbers. Those are going to be wonky one way or another. Now, they mentioned that and they draw a comparison to BlackBerry, which is essentially an old technology versus a new technology. The new technology is going to win out, and the old technology is going to phase out faster and faster. So, wraps up by saying that the automotive market changes more slowly than the mobile phone market, so Toyota will still have a few years to right the ship, but its hurdles are higher. The company will need to deploy billions of dollars over several years to develop a new vehicle. Toyota seems unwilling to commit to EVs today, despite the signals that the market is sending, saying it's no wonder why the company has resorted to working the refs. Essentially saying that, again, Toyota is sending out lobbyists, spending a lot of money and time and energy to say that, the world's not ready for electric vehicles. It's the energy demands are not being met and cannot be met. Any way to kind of phase this through is not going to work. And it's very counter what other companies are saying that, we can do this. Electric cars are here. They're here to stay, and they're ready for purchase. Toyota, again, just trying to preserve their market dominance and preserve the cars that they have worked so hard and spent so much money to develop. There we go. Okay, now, that's too far. Okay, how about we talk about this one. Make sure we have plenty of time for it. We'll do this one, and then we'll skip back over to some lighter fare. But I wanted to get this one in. John Fingus talking about the Pentagon. And check this one out. Pentagon believes its precognitive AI can predict events days in advance. And no, it does not say weather events. It does not say, astronomical events or, things that we traditionally think AI can do, weather patterns and, things like that. No, they're saying events in general, specifically as it would pertain to the military. Now, the U.S. military's AI experiments are growing ambitious, saying The Drive reports that U.S. Northern Command recently completed a string of tests for global information dominance experiments, or GUIDE, I guess, a combination of AI, cloud computing, and sensors that could give the Pentagon the ability to predict events days in advance. Okay, that's future telling. Okay, that would be a great thing for militaries to have if they could actually have it. Saying that it's not as mystical as it sounds, but it could lead to a major change in military and government operations. And even before reading the article, I gotta say, in my head, how it, using enough image recognition, let's just say real-time satellite images coming in, being processed en masse, hundreds or thousands of images a day of very particular points. Let's say the border between Crimea and Russia. You take continuous pictures, the AI is able to detect that this is these are military units, this is a border, this is this is a line of infantry, this is supply, these are supply depots, these are this and this. Any human that was able to look through thousands of photos a day and look at troop movement, troop dispersal, look at all this stuff and kind of go, you know what? They're moving a lot of troops to the border. I think Russia is going to invade Crimea here in the next couple of days. Any human would be able to do that, obviously with enough information and time and energy. The AI, on the other hand, will predict these things in advance, and they'll predict them in real time, and they'll go, based on how quickly this is happening, where they're going, where they're setting up, we think that these troops are going to be able to move here in the next 3 days. And I think that's what they're really getting at. It's not about predicting the future, saying that, Ben's going to win the lottery in 3 days because I know it's going to happen this time. No, it's going to be about extrapolating from information that you have, which is something that AI is actually very good at. Now, that's before I even read the article. Let's go ahead and see what's actually happening. Saying that the machine learning based system observes changes in raw real-time data that hint at possible trouble. If satellite imagery shows signs that a rival nation's submarine is preparing to leave port, for instance, the AI could flag that mobilization, knowing the vessel will likely leave soon. Military analysts can take hours or even days to comb through that information, and they mentioned that the AI can do that within seconds. So, yeah, makes perfect sense. In the most recent dry run, Guide 3 was the most expensive yet, saying it saw 11 U.S. commands and the broader Defense Department use a mix of military and civilian sensors to address scenarios where contested logistics, such as communications in the Panama Canal, might pose a problem. The technology involved wasn't strictly new, but the military stitched everything together. And that's really where AI shines. Not that it can do something totally radical, but where it can take massive amounts of information together and then put them all into either a very concise graph so that humans can then extrapolate the data, or the next level, it can then have an appropriate response to the data that it has collected and categorized. Now, the platform could be put into real-world use relatively soon. They mentioned that they believe the military was ready to field the software and could validate it at the next globally integrated exercise in spring 2022. I have no doubt, hey, the military being the military, they are, whatever they show you, they are way ahead of whatever it is that they're actually showing you. I'm not one of those, conspiracy theorists that think that, they have alien technology, but yeah, whatever they're working on, whatever they're ready to show you is a couple of years back to what they were actively doing. And, hey, remember, military has nearly unlimited budget, and AI and machine learning has been around for, a couple decades at this point, and really come into its own, just kind of recently. I would say that this news is probably about 5 years old at this point. But hey, they say they're just about ready to do it. Now, the advantages of this predictive AI are fairly clear. Instead of merely reacting to events, you can, of course, head them off. It could also provide an opportunity for the civilian government. He didn't provide examples, but this could help politicians call out acts of aggression while they are still in their early stages. Essentially, if let's say China makes a move in Southeast Asia and they start claiming different islands in Southeast Asia as their own, as the territory of China, as opposed to territory of the Philippines or Japan or whatever. Hey, maybe those conflicts won't even have time to rise to conflicts before we start saying, hey, pay attention. That's we see what you're doing. Calm down. That's not how that's going to work. Stuff like that. Now, obviously, there are still limitations. The AI is looking for out-of-the-ordinary clues, which is known in the world as managing by exception, because, hey, if you expect to see 30 submarines at port, somewhere in China, then, it's not really going to alert you that there are, submarines in China. There you go. It can't say for certain what's happening. Humans will still be heavily involved. Even so, the tech could be worthwhile if it prevents a surprise attack or leads to negotiations instead of a conflict. And yep, managing by exception, that is, one of the best ways to approach it, I really do believe. Because clearly, we can take snapshots of everything that's happening right now, right here. If things change, that's what you need to pay attention to. It's not really that you need to pay attention to how things currently are, because everything is currently in a stasis. And to preserve that stasis or make that stasis better, you only need to pay attention to what's changing. So very cool technology. How that will influence everything. This really calls into, I should say highlights the need for this idea of an international consortium on machine learning and artificial intelligence, because there was already that need, that call by a lot of companies saying that artificial intelligence and machine learning is just too powerful of a technology for individual companies. Because as soon as one individual company creates an AI or has machine learning that just outmaneuvers every other company in the market, and no other company has a chance to even react to this, either through marketing campaigns, through product acquisition, through so many other ways that you can use machine learning in a business sense. You need to put everyone on a level playing field, because clearly you can't say, okay, no one used this. No, everyone is going to continue to use this. But pulling it back is not an option. Putting everyone forward and elevating everyone is your next best option. Whether or not that's going to happen, and that's just in the business world. On the government military side, that is definitely not going to happen anytime soon. There does probably, this has like the possibility of having nuclear weapon style implications on warfare and international treaties and military power. I feels good being, Computer America, and America, of course, having dominance in this field with so much funding and so much effort, time, energy, and of course, some of the smartest, and if they're listening and they have their fingers on the button, the most handsome people as well on this, project. But yeah, clearly one company, or I'm sorry, not even company, one government having the ability to just completely outmaneuver everyone else on Earth, that is not exactly a balance of power. There was a reason why there was a rush to the nuke after the Americans had it. You needed that balance of power instead of just one country having all the cards. Where all this goes, who knows, but this is a huge step forward for the Pentagon. So there you go. We are running out of time. The only other story that I will kind of talk about here, and we'll save some of these other ones for later, but Texas Instruments, we'll go ahead and say this real quick. For those who had a TI 83, 84 when I was in school, and of course they have a lot of different types of TIs now, but Texas Instrument, which is a Dallas-based company, they mentioned that their latest generation of calculators is getting a modern-day update with the addition of the programming language Python. And they say that the goal is to expand students' ability to explore science, technology, engineering, and math through the device that's all but required in the nation's highest schools and colleges. Though most of the company's $14 billion in annual revenue comes from semiconductors, its graphing calculator remains its most recognized consumer product, and this latest TI-84 model, priced between $120 and $160, 10 years later, that price point and model has not changed. Well, a little bit now. They're saying it was made to accommodate the increasing importance of programming in the modern world. So there you go. Python is now on the TI-84. Pretty cool. Everyone, we'll have a link to this in the show notes. We'll have a link to everything in the show notes. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to Computer America. Everyone, computeramerica.com, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye.